Truth Radio. I'm Tryson Graham here with Sharon Quinn and Will Gable. And today we have for you evolution or revolution, and doesn't even matter. So we're talking about the current state of things, uh, things from our eyes, how how we're seeing it, and current the current landscape. We have political, academic, educational, uh, industrial, corporate institutions that are failing, um, and it's no longer in question. So the question becomes: do we overthrow those systems without anything in place to take their to perform their function in society? Because they're important, and society is important. So, do we want to evolve those institutions, those systems, those traditions in some cases, and create new, unifying, or do we want to overthrow, revolt, and divide the people so that those systems aren't rebuilt, and if they are, they're rebuilt for the good of some, but not the others? Uh, this is a little bit of what we're talking about today with Sharon. Sharon Quinn is the author of this new book out titled Heart and Soul, The Heart and Soul of Parenting Handbook. It's an excellent resource on parenting, but it's helpful for many different types of people. Anyone that sees herself becoming a parent, who's around children, young people, or other parents that perhaps you influence people who are raising the next generation of kids. And um, I'm personally in that situation. I find myself fighting hard to help and teach and um, model positivity for those parents so that they can do that for their kids. And this book, Heart and Soul of Parenting Handbook, is a resource that has step-by-step instructions, um, methodology, but it's also conversationally um, impactful to help you understand and perform it on yourself first of all. So so you can understand the methodology, but you can start to change and discipline, control yourself before you do that for anyone else. And that's a key thing to understand, a principle that you can live by. That um, if you help yourself, then you're able to help others. So with that, a little bit of what we're going to talk about today, and exciting announcement, pre-announcement, I would say, pre-announcement stage. I'll let Sharon talk more about the uh, the topic for today, um, and a little bit more context. There are terrorist organizations ravaging parts, but not all of the country, and we're speaking out to stand with those people who care about and are not necessarily receiving the help and the defense, the protection against those domestic, really domestic terrorist organizations that stand for division and superiority of either side. Um, that when we were in a country that was built on equality, those ideals don't match up, and so the ease with which these things have gone on and gone over, uh, it's not a good sign for future challenges that we face, such as the decision whether or not to receive a vaccine for COVID, or
Is that a solution or a problem?
right, yeah. So these are certain some of the things that are upcoming, that are unfolding, and our actions now will set a precedent. That's why it's important to question the obligation, the duty, or the mandate to wear a mask, and to use common sense when you're thinking about, do I need to wear a mask, and do I need to be upset if I'm forced to wear a mask, or if others are okay with not wearing a mask. We're in a lot of different situations. Um, so let's begin and start with some clear thinking. Start to get down to the bottom of how do we get ourselves out of this situation. With that, turn it over to Sharon.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Trison, very much. We must always remember to be grateful to Trison because he is making it possible for this to go out onto the internet and get to you, because that is like way over my head. Something that he brought up here, and I'll just tie a few bows on what he was saying, was when he was talking about this book, The Heart and Soul of Parenting Handbook. This whole book is really about teaching you how to empower yourself and how to empower your children. When we can empower ourselves and we can come into our own empowerment and know how to hold on to and express our own truth, that's empowerment. That is a very, very big key that we all desire to have. And this handbook, step by step, takes you through a process that will work for your children as well as you. And we're talking very young children, toddlers, to teens and adults. And why does it work so broadly? It works as broadly as it does because it's based upon universal principle. And universal principle goes to the spirit and the heart of who we are. And principle is eternal. It's eternal law, it's eternal truth. And it never, ever is wrong. It never goes out of being correct. It never goes out of being the way that works. And therefore, it's eternal. So it's not relative. It's not like a big bouncing ball that you bounce around and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. When you're really aligned with principle and eternal law, it always is, always will be the absolute solution that gives us long term, permanent, sustainable results. And this catapults right to what we want to talk about today. And when we were talking about the very idea of what's going on right now, we realize that a revolution is on the verge. But that revolution can be abated and turned into an evolution, which would be peaceful. Now, history, go and do your homework, research till your heart's content, but you will never, ever, ever find a revolution that occurred where there was not a horrible darkness following the complete annihilation and breakdown of what was. No matter how good the intention was to bring the next step, the fact that it brought about poverty and brought about immense darkness and so much human suffering is the very thing that wisdom can allow us to not do this time. We stand in a position, but we're on the precipice. I'm not kidding you. You know it. You can feel it. You know I'm not BSing you. The problem is we're standing on this precipice and it's all happening so fast and it seems so chaotic. That's because there is a plan underneath this chaos. We can't see the plan, but we can use a little bit of understanding about universal principle that we're going to be that we've been talking about and we're building upon so that we can understand the structure of what's going on, the structure of what is breaking down and its functions, and look at what needs to change to bring these structures back into functioning the way they're intended and need to meet us now. This is very big. And you might want to sit and think about that for a moment and take that in, because it's powerful understanding. So, for a moment, what is really going on when we're standing on a precipice? What overcomes us? Imagine yourself standing on a precipice and you're looking down at a craggy rocks below. There's a little bit of what? Pause. And that pause is fear. Because you realize, where do I go next? I'm on the edge. I'm on a precipice. Do I jump? Would that be smart? Well, that's what we're looking at right now, and that's where we're being pushed by the people who are rioting. This whole Black Lives Matters thing is not about a good thing. It is just a phrase being used that says some people are going to be superior and some are going to be inferior. That breaks a dynamic, universal principle that this whole country and all freedom is always and ever always will be built upon, in every successful society that gets a good momentum and prosperity going builds upon an idea of equality. Absolute equality. Eternal law is absolute. That means it doesn't change this week and next week it's good and the following week it applies, and it applies to some people, and it's tall people it fits, and purple people do better with it, and how about the green people? Oh, they do much better. That's all bullshit. Okay? It's BS, pure and simple, because it's working with relative and trying to apply the idea that absolutes are irrelevant. For a relative to bounce all around, we have to ignore the idea that the only way to stop all this is to come to its center point, where the absolute comes in from the divine. The divine, our creator, is not willy-nilly all over the place. Universal law is eternal, and it talks about balance and equality at all times. And when you have balance and equality, you have peace or equanimity. Now, that also means prosperity. And that also means everyone is equally worthy of peace. Everyone is equally worthy of optimizing their empowerment to be who they are. Not to power over another, because that's what we're seeing right now. You look at the BLM. It's all about trying to rob from somebody to give to another. And what are they using? Peace? Mm-mm. Are they using joy? Mm-mm. Are they using unification? No. What are they using? Divisiveness? They are using terrorism tactics. They are burning down local businesses. They're not burning down Google, are they? They're not burning down the big corporations who are censoring and controlling you. No. They're burning down the mom and pop business at the corner. Now, how the hell is that going to be a good idea? What did they do to hurt you? You know, nothing. As a matter of fact, it could be you next. And you know that. And that scares the shit out of you, and it should. That's why I kind of call BLM, kind of reminds me of bowel movement. But they're terroristic, all right? And I don't mind calling a spade because it's clarity. And if I apologize and say, oh, I'm sorry, what am I sorry for? Telling the truth? Should never, ever apologize for telling the truth. The very essence of who you are. What is the truth? You're worthy. You're equal. You're equally as worthy as every human being on this planet. There is nobody who is born more equal. There's no such word as equaler, equalist. Why? Because it's an oxymoron. It doesn't exist. Equal means absolute everybody. Everybody. And that's the truth. Everything else is a bullshit lie. Even when religions train you and teach you to supplicate yourself to being a sinner, they are teaching you to think of yourself as unequal to who you are in relationship to the divine. They're betraying your trust and not teaching you the truth anymore. And that ticks me off. Oh, should I apologize that makes me angry that you're being lied to and you're suffering as a result? I don't think so. I'm upset that I even have to say it this way. I'm upset that to tell the truth has to take on this fire to get through to let people see the truth. Think about those doctors on front line. Man, that was amazing. They risked their lives, their jobs to tell the people this pandemic is no longer what we think it is. It's about control. Think about it. There's one narrative. Never, never, ever in history has there been one point of view. You know that. My God, let's just get the family together and just all talk about something. Just get around the dinner table. Are we all going to be in 100% agreement if we're honest? I don't think so. Especially if you got teenagers there. They're going to have an evolving viewpoint. They're going to be testing the waters because they are wanting to move into a new future and they're looking at things they don't like. They might not have the answers, but we're going to have differing viewpoints. But what do we have that doesn't differ? Equality. Every single person is worthy. And being able to have the freedom of speech to say what we think is what maintains and gives voice and empowerment to what? Our equality. I mean, and really, this is pretty simple to understand, don't you think? They're trying to make it sound very confusing and, oh my God, so complex. And, oh, I need to worry about what we did 100 years ago. Excuse me. Were you here 100 years ago or 200 years ago? Were you really the one who made the bad decisions 100 years ago? God, if so, I would like to talk to you. Because my sense is your answer, and everybody's answer to that is, no, I'm here in present time. I'm also an effect of those bad decisions. We're also the effect of some good decisions that people are trying to rip away from us in the form of riots, in the form of a movement that wants to say and get us all jazzed up on race. My God, people, we're people. I don't care if you're purple, green, checkered, polka dotted, zigzagged lines all over your body. I don't care if you're pink or blue or black or white. It's irrelevant. It's just the skin. Underneath that skin, breathing our breath, is this universal spirit of light and love. And that light casts out the darkness of the lie that says we're not equal. That somehow somebody's better than another. Well, who the hell is that? That's a lie. Okay? And you've been filled with ideas of guilt and shame to make you want to say, well, maybe it's true. So what have we done? I'm going to use words I heard of Trison earlier today. We stop trusting what we know in our heart, and we start to entertain the doubt. And when we entertain the doubt of truth, eternal, absolute truth, we are in big doo-doo. Yes, enters the door. Okay? And people preying on that are evil. People burning up our cities, burning up small businesses, taking people's homes from them, beating people up, killing them, and not being held accountable? What? What? Really? What are we sitting there thinking about this for? You know damn well as I do, and I'm sorry I said damn, but it is maybe a thought that should be completely condemned forevermore. Terrorism is evil. That type of violence is destructive and it's ripping us apart and it's killing our beautiful freedoms. So let's look at what we've been talking about before I get too emotional. And why am I emotional? Because I am committed in my heart and soul to the truth that says, end all inequity now. End human suffering. That's not the divine way. The divine never, ever, 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 ever said and thought or had the intention, you guys need to suffer to learn how to love me. Think about the stupidity of that. Love is the essence of acceptance, warmth, hugging, and acceptance of who you are, bringing you in and recognizing and honoring your sense of value and worth. We used to be able to recognize and live with that by putting your hand out and another person would shake it. And we'd touch each other and we'd realize we just bonded on some kind of an agreement, eye to eye. in our handshake. That's almost something a lot of people don't even know anything about anymore. Oh, how sad. So the big truth is love unites us. Love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, could the teacher have made it any more clear? He didn't use a bunch of fancy words. He didn't put it into all these if, ands, or buts, and maybe on this occasion don't, and sometimes on here do, and only do it for this race, but don't do it for that race, and don't do it for women, and don't do it for kids, or maybe some kids, but not all kids. Hell no, it was just one statement. Love your neighbor as yourself. Recognize yourself as not a sinner, but as a worthy person, and your love will be pure. Recognize yourself as an unworthy sinner. Now, love your neighbor as yourself is going to get pretty weird and ugly. We've already seen it. And that's why we're confused. Because who's telling us what is your sense of how you love yourself before we start looking at the teaching, love your neighbor as yourself? But look at our beautiful Constitution of the United States, which said, one nation under God. Everyone is equal. So it was already telling us the seed in our heart was equality. Not better than, not less than, not partial than, not whatever the heck than, okay? And that was where we found peace and a beautiful nation that people from around the world have come to, because when we work with equity, equality, fairness, and fair exchange, and treating other people fairly as we would want ourselves to be treated, just naturally starts to be what rules and guides us. Whoa, how complex was that? Oh, I don't think very complex at all. You see what I'm saying? They want you to think it's complex, because then you stand there and what we are dealing with right now, and you know what that is? Paradigm, which is thought awareness paralysis. I myself have been finding myself going, wow, they can paralyze you in a New York second lately. You just see, every day I wake up and it's like, what? What do you mean? It's so insane. It is so off the charts crazy that what sane people and loving people are doing is being in paralysis. We're all going, what? That's insane. Well, we got to stop saying, that's insane. All right, we get it. We got to come out of the that's insane awareness and start saying, stop it. They're trying to define it as something positive, as a change we've got to have, man. No, we don't. We don't have to start making some people more special. No, we don't have to make some people get on their knees and tell people they've never even met before, I'm sorry that I hurt you. I don't even know you. I was just out eating dinner the other day and I was helping to support a local family doing something. How did that hurt you? And why should I get down on my knees and beg your forgiveness? See how confusing? They want us to think we're sinners. They want us to think we're not worthy, that some people are more worthy than another. Can't you see the bullshit there? Come on. I don't think it's that hard to see, really. If you can get over the fear and the pain in your heart that says, is that rude for me to think of myself as a loving, kind, equal person? That's entertaining doubt. You never doubt the eternal law. You never doubt the truth, and our Constitution was based on the truth. So, let's go back to what we've been talking about, because to talk about whether or not we are prepared to go through a revolution, which will put us into a world of hurt and a lot of pain, a lot of human suffering, a lot of poverty, and a lot of state control, in which we will no longer wake up in the morning and say, I am so glad I gave birth to my most recent child to live in this awful, totalitarian, ugly world. You heard that. I know. Go back to that day, parents. You're powerful. I think you're the most powerful force on this planet. And I write about that in the book. You should read the book because you need to get some positive ideas about who you are. Because I help you see yourself as you really are, and not as society has tried to make you think you are, which is kind of crappy and, subservient to the educational system. Hell no. Those institutions are to you. And let's look at why I'm saying that. Not because I'm a radical, because that's the farthest thing from being the truth, unless you want to consider absolute truth radical. And it's only radical because it's going against abject lies that are telling you the truth is not the truth. We want to give you a new truth, one that sucks to high heaven, stinks to high heaven, okay? Because it's going to hurt you, it's going to hurt your children, it's going to put us in poverty, and it's going to make us divisively hating each other. I don't want to hate you. I'm not going to hate you. I don't want you to hate anybody. I want you to come back into your heart that knows people are good. I don't want you to fear your neighbor. I don't want you to fear your mom. I don't want you to fear your kids. I don't want your kids fearing you. I don't want us to live in fear. I want us to live in the truth of knowingness of who we are. So let's go back to what we've been talking about with paradigms and how paradigms are the ideas, and some of our paradigms and the ones we're currently living in have degraded into ideologies. And that means they've lost their balance, okay? But paradigms are the ideas that become the society guidelines. Remember we talked about that, okay? And then that's how we process our information, okay? Don't ever forget that. Just keep going back to that and ruminate over that and think about that. It's very clarifying when you really, the light bulbs all start coming on. You start going, oh, that makes sense. Oh my God, that makes sense, okay? Today we want to focus on, we talked about how the paradigms have broken down. They created our institutions, and the institutions were there to help us live by the rule of our particular country. And that was what? The Constitution of the United States. Okay? Now, we didn't talk much about the Constitution of the United States, but we will today, because we can now fit it into this other picture so you can understand something that's under attack right now. You are watching it, and you have got to be the one to stop it. It ain't going to happen by magic. It ain't going to happen with a vote in November. We have to stop it now, so that whatever happens in November is because we owned the shift, and the violence and the anarchy isn't owning us. Think about it. Think about it. Okay? So what did we have? At the heart and soul of all of our institutions initially were the precepts of the Constitution of the United States and its Bill of Rights. What were the core principles, the core ideals, the core realities we wanted to go and keep? I called them an ideal because they were the highest we could think of as the way to live. But then we were charged with giving them a reality, so we took them out of ideology and started to form institutions that would help us train our thinking and our thoughts and guide the way we lived with laws. Laws that would support our equity, absolute equality, absolute worth, not sometimes worth, not worth based on any relative idea or thought or birth order or anything whatsoever. Absolute means always is, always was, always will be. It never shifts, it never changes. It's stable. It's stable. 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 And what does stable, when you heard those words, what did you kind of feel in your heart? Peace. No chaos. Oh, stable. That's peace. And that gives us a sense of safety. But if our safety is not peaceful and stable because we're free, then we're imprisoned. And that might be stable, but it'll be rigid. It'll be, I am a rock. I am an island. An island never cries. And an island doesn't feel. And an island means, I don't even know who the hell you are. I don't even know if I should care about you. All I care about is me. And grabby, 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 petty, petty, petty me. I want, and I will kill you. I will destroy you. I will maim you. I will terrorize the shit out of you so I can have more than you. Now, that would be a tyrannical, tyranny, petty, tyrant type of stability. But that's not stable. It's rigid. Let's not get our words confused here. Don't confuse rigidity and imprisonment with stable. That's for criminals. Criminals need everything closed in on them because they refuse to flow at the center point in their heart of equality. Think about that. Go back on the tape, listen to that part again. Listen again, listen again, listen again, and listen again till the light bulb comes off in your mind and you say, oh my God, that's so beautiful. Love is beautiful. Who you are is absolutely beautiful and worthy of being free. And I want every child that's been born to have a future that is built upon preserving the heart and soul of the paradigms that got bastardized to externalized values and goals that have been basically money and power over others. Pretty much that's been the breakdown, and it's been slowly eked away, and now we're looking at it rapidly tearing us apart. It's so crazy we don't even know what to think, and they are counting on the fact that we don't know what to think. That means we're paralyzed. And when people are paralyzed, you can come straight in and knock them out. And that's exactly what they're doing. Okay, so let's get a little bit of truth here. Let's get a little bit of flow going again. And let's get back on the truth edge of our worth. Because that's our empowerment. That is our flexibility. And that is our breath. And that is our breathing. And yes, they're demanding that we wear a mask so we can't breathe. That's spirit breathing your breath, folks. That is the essence of who you are. And it's a lie. You don't need that damn mask. That mask is killing you. And the reason you're doing this all day is because your body is saying, get that thing off of me. That is not divine design. If God wanted us to have air filtered like that, do you think the Creator's got the power, the amazing creative capacity to have us be born with masks on? Masks built around our face? Absolutely. But that's not what's happening, is it? So, what's the message from the divine? Breathe. Breathe in your power. Breathe in your presence. Breathe in that spirit of who you are. Because that's what this Constitution was all about. The spirit of America. The spirit of America is always celebrating people being brave, people going into a fire building and saving that baby that was left in the crib as the parents are outside screaming. Oh, it is that bravery of somebody like Martin Luther King standing forward and saying, let's stop being so divisive with each other. We need to come together and be one. All right? The Constitution of America is a document that was lasted for about 200 years before it was able to be whittled down and attacked like it's being attacked right now. We have to stop the breakdown so that we can evolve, not have a revolution, not go into the pits of despair and hell and poverty and destruction. Take one look, my God, at what New York looks like. Do you want to live like that? Is that what you want your city to look like? Is that what you want to wake up to in the morning and say, dang, this is a beautiful place. It's on fire, and there's smoke and smoldering and broken buildings everywhere, and we can't go out anywhere without bodyguards. Really? I don't think that's what you consider the world you'd like your children to grow up in and be their future. I could be wrong. I mean, you may prove me wrong, but I'm thinking if we're in the heart of truth, that's not what you want. So, what was the heart and soul initially of all of our institutions that were externalized organizations put together to assist us and help us stay together as a social group where we could maintain our freedom, our integrity? We built laws to say if you don't want to be equal and you want to take something from somebody, you're breaking the law. You're stealing from them. You're harming them. You're shooting them. You're killing them. You don't know how to control yourself. You don't know how to stay on your center point. So you need to go into a confined place, a prison, and collect yourself. Now, what we fail to do right now, and that's part of the old paradigm, that's part of the evolution we need, is we should not just be putting people in prison. We need to be putting in there and rehabbing what is broken in their heart and soul. That's just a little thought, but it takes us off point, so I'm going back to what we're talking about. So, absolute equality and worth. And that looks like fair trade. Right now, we have corporations who are taking over and destroying the small mom and pop businesses because fair trade is not what beats their heart. It is raping profits. And they want to give it to a board of directors and take the quality of their products and services down, 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 down. I mean, it's to the point now where something's broken and you got to be on the phone listening to a robot. Well, did you want this? Press 1. Did you want that? Press 2. And by the time they get down to press 13, and you go, well, gee, they didn't really say what I wanted, hit and we'll start the menu over again. How many of you enjoy that? I hate it. I'm going to tell you right up front. I hate it. I want to say, stop this. Get a human being on the phone who can understand what the heck I'm saying and get me to the right person, like in what? In a half a minute. Instead of 5 minutes later listening to and pounding numbers on my keyboard, and then I find myself, I never got hold of a human being when the whole thing was done. And I still didn't get my question answered. That is breaking you down for a breakdown of corporate greed. It's got nothing to do with what a smaller business would be all about. You walk into a smaller business, but yes, how can I help you? What's going on? They did what? Oh my God, it's broken. Let me replace that for you. Oh, that isn't what we intended for you to get when you walked out of the door. You got a real human being who cares about their integrity and the integrity of you getting what you went in there to get, whether it was a service or a product. That's a real person talking to a real person. That's the joy. Whether you want to admit it or not, I know as you're listening, this a part of you is going, yeah, I remember that, and it's beautiful. And for those of you who haven't been living in a world where you got to see it, imagine it. Let me tell you, talk to people who remember that. It's a much more beautiful way of relating. It takes the stress out. Yay! We all want stress down. It lowers the cortisol. Whoa, because stress comes with cortisol. And that comes with being agitated and not being able to be empowered. I'll tell you, after talking to a robot for 5 minutes or 10 minutes on a menu, are you empowered? No, you feel diminished. You feel disempowered. You feel ruined and exhausted and frustrated. Huh. Isn't that your cue? That is not where you want to go? That's what's wrong? I want to think about it. Okay, just a thought. Now, fair trade is one of the big things that comes out of absolute equality. What else? It's relationships in which we're talking to each other and we care about our impact upon another person. And this then leads us to all lives matter equally. All lives matter. There is no human being on the face of this earth that does not matter. Absolute equality makes everybody equal. So if somebody steals from you, that's just going to be wrong. And it doesn't matter, well, who stole from you? How much did they take from you? Was it enough to qualify as a crime? Get out of here. They stole from you. Doesn't matter whether they took 5 cents or they took $20 or $200. They didn't have the right to take from you. They violated your integrity. And we have laws that says you can't do that. You can't do that because everybody's life matters and everybody has the right to be free in their person. Now, what are some of the other very core things that were part of this Constitution that we've been protecting, that are actually part of who we are? And I'm only looking down at my notes here, not because I don't know, I just don't want to go off. I want to stay on some guidelines here so the show doesn't go on until tomorrow. Because as we all know, and we can all laugh and say, yeah, Sharon can be a bit verbose. I can get on the truth and not stop. Not because I'm crazy or not because I'm an egotistical maniac who wants to hear my voice, but because the fire and the passion in my heart wants to just make sure, are you getting this? Are you getting this? I've come to realize saying something once generally hasn't proven to be enough because there's too many layers of pain and sorrow and unworthy messages that it's got to whittle away to get to you. Getting to your heart is all this is about. Getting to who you are and to own the one thing. You are absolutely worthy. That is equality, and we want nothing less. That's what our Constitution guaranteed us. What did that look like? Well, some of the things that came out of that are protected, absolutely protected, would be the nuclear family. Okay? Now, an institution that is built upon, see, that's the heart and soul. I'm going to give you the heart and soul of some of the things that were part of these paradigms that have been ripped out. And that's why we have to change our institutions. But we don't want to have an anarchy. We don't want to strip everything down to nothing. We want to do an evolutionary step-by-step progression away from what we don't want and insist upon gradual changes with the Constitution being our guardrail all the way. All the way, unequivocally. And if anyone wants to break those constitutional rights that we have, hello, jail. That's where you deserve to be. Because you think you have a right to terrorize and take things away from other people. Not in this country. That's what made this country great, and that's what we got to go back to. Our empowerment of our heart. Our heart and soul is what made us great. Not a dollar. Not a dollar sign. Not a corporation. Never. Small businesses, interrelationships. And that starts at the nuclear family. So, nuclear families being protected, then we build education systems and schools to train our children so that the parents can go and do what they need to do in other institutions, like maybe building a new type of car that doesn't have to have wheels on a road. Maybe we can build hovercraft. Ooh, wouldn't that be fun? Maybe we can get around a different kind of way. Whatever the answers are, that creativity rests in our heart and souls. Okay? So the schools would be set up with the parents as the key factor that they're serving, because the parents are there telling us how we have to have and raise their children to be the best they can be. Provide the best pedagogy, which is educational methodologies that are the best. We know they work, and we know that we sometimes have to have about 5 or 6 different pedagogies because not every child has the same path that's the strongest for them to learn on. Just briefly, some people are better visual learners, some are better sensorial touch learners, some are better auditory learners, just to skim the surface on that, okay? There's a whole lot more we can learn on all of this, and it's your right to know all of it. But I'm right now just wanting to help you look at the guardrail, the guide rail, okay? So, when schools then would serve the nuclear family, okay? And the child would then be prepared from infancy with the help of the parent, and the parent would be part of the educational system, and what they would be saying would matter, because all lives matter. All input would matter, particularly if it's about your child. Oh my God, what do you mean you don't have a say about how your child's moral compass should look? Really? Really? It's your child. Of course the school system needs to be working with you. We might have different types of school systems because different people might want to develop that moral compass slightly a little bit differently. That's a free country. But the parents would be an essential part of the educational system. Education would be serving the parents who are serving their children. And it would be something that would be whole. It would be a holism in which we would develop those children from, I mean, do we abandon infants? I don't think so. And what do infants need? They need to be held and touched, and they need to see your face, mom and dad. If they don't, they do not develop properly, and you cannot undo, and you cannot fill in at age 1 what that child needed to get in the first 6 months of their life with you. I don't care what anybody tells you. You can't change that time frame. The brain develops linearly. Your child needs to see your face from the moment he's born. He's picking up, oh, mommy, ooh, daddy, smiles, eyes, care. The brain is processing all of this, and that child is learning to love and bond and enjoy humanity. the spirit that breathes our breath. When it can't see, the baby and the infant can't see that, they go sociopathic and pathologically develop into psychotic people, anxiety-ridden people. That's not right. That's not what you want. I'm pretty sure that when you gave birth to your beautiful child, and you said, "I want you to be a neurotic sociopath who will go out and destroy the world, and including mom and dad while you're at it." I'm pretty sure, now correct me if I'm wrong, that is not what you had intended. Instead, you looked into the eyes of that beautiful child and said, "I want to make sure you get the best education ever, babe. And I want you to grow up to be that creative, unique human being you are. And I want to see that you get everything you need so you can show us another way that evolves our society more than mommy and daddy can see. But we want to make sure you got the right heart and soul. And so that you can take that unique creativity that comes in generation after generation and can see just a little bit further than the generation before them." I'm thinking that's what you really wanted. And that's what you still want. Better preserve that right now. Don't wait for something else to happen, because at the rate things are going, in another couple months, we might be in an irreversible breakdown where even your home is burned down. How are we going to fix things then? Think about it. Okay, so the nuclear family is one of the things that the heart and soul came out of these institutions, and it has been bastardized. I'm sure you can already see that. Education has been bastardized. It's more about NEA. No, we're not going to open the schools because we want more money. We're more worried about the teachers. What? Fire them. They're not there for your kids. They're there for themselves. Hey, I'm a teacher. I'm not afraid of kids. And I know I got to work my rear end off. You wouldn't quite think I did a good enough job. See, I can laugh at myself. I can laugh at my body aging and not being, that 20-year-old chickie poo. Okay, it happens. I get it. We have to be able to laugh at our evolution, at the process of aging. We can't run away from aging. We can't run away from birth and death. No, let's embrace and understand them all. That would be part of what we need to do. That's where religions have failed. Man, they aren't getting people on a right track with that at all. What else do we have that was one of the main things? Free speech. I should be able to give an opposing point of view without being censored. Those doctors, those brilliantly brave doctors who said, "We found a cure. We found a way so that this COVID doesn't hurt another human being. We've already got 300 plus some people who are not dying, who are not getting so sick that they're dying or suffering through the process. And nobody has gotten sick beyond that. My God, we've even found a way in which we can get it so that you don't even ever have to wear a mask ever again. If you're worried about it, throw out the stupid virus. That's very not virus. Vaccines, the VV. Because we found a way in which you can breathe and still be a human being and go about living and caring about other people and not ruin the quality of your life. And what did they do? It had 1 million some views, and it got pulled everywhere. Their website got pulled. What? And then you get somebody else who's supposedly an authority and says they're not real doctors. What? They're running clinics. They're fully licensed, triple board certified, double board certified, single board certified doctors who, just because they told the truth, they're fake. What are you buying that crap for? Think. Will wants to talk a little bit about what kind of thinking are you doing with your emotions, or are you using rational thought or not? Think. Does that make sense? No. Freedom of speech is your answer. That's the line you're looking for. Freedom of speech. We are allowed to disagree. Agree to disagree. I'm not going to force you to believe my way. I'm not going to force you to do what I want. I'm going to say, Tracy, I might not think I would want to wear that cap that way, but then again, it looks kind of good on you, I suppose. It looks like crap on me. So what? Should I say you can't have that hat? No. How insane is that? That's control over. That means we're not empowered to be who we are. We can't be different and celebrate our differences. No, we want to be derisive and divisive and say, you be like me or else. Who's got the bigger black belt? Who's got the bigger gun? See what I'm saying? Bullshit. And that's where they want us to think. But you know what? I've noticed the beauty of the people who are sweet and innocent and really into these things I'm talking about that are the core of our Constitution. You're just confused right now because too much is hitting you too fast. I get it. I fully get it. We're decent people and we want to do the right thing, but we have to acknowledge and get over our paradigm paralysis, our thought paralysis, our moral compass being totally paralyzed. And we recognize we see insanity, but we have to now take the step beyond being paralyzed. That's insane. Because just that awareness is giving them space to keep hurting us, going more and more insane, and confusing us more and more and more. That's what we got to stop. Okay? So we need absolute colorblindness under the law. Oh, all lives matter, equality. Absolute colorblindness. You know what that means. All lives matter. We don't permit anybody to betray or hurt anybody else for any reason. And we definitely aren't going to give them the idea of saying the color of your skin is the reason we're going to separate and hate each other. It's insane. That isn't even who we are. It's just a layer of skin on a body. Who we are is breathing our breath. I have so many beautiful black friends, and you know what? They're all sitting there just as much as me going, what is going on? I'm not persecuted. Who's making this shit up? They're using an idea and going to an age-old wound that has been around the planet, and they're stirring it with confusion. Don't let them do that to you. That's what we're thinking here, is we're trying to get our thinking straight, get some clarity going. Okay? Another part that is absolutely protected by the Constitution are small, independent businesses. Not corporations. Actually, corporations have broke all the antitrust laws. That's a whole other idea. But go research that. Okay? Non-violent protest is protected by our Constitution. That's what we got going on right now. That's not nonviolent protest saying this is wrong. No, what we have are people who are domestic terrorists destroying our country, destroying our states, destroying our relationships, and killing a happy, peaceful life. Stop it. Don't let them go one step further. Call them for what they are. They are criminals. They are criminals. They're trying to make us think everything's a policy debate, but it's not. This organization is using force to rip this country apart. And they want us to be so confused that we give away a strong leadership and say, take us apart. And you know what you're going to get? That more of what you see in the streets. Because they already showed us what they believe in. They already showed us how they think they want to do it. What makes you think they're going to get in there and suddenly become peaceful? Come on. Think. Think. Doesn't even make sense. Okay. And what is being attacked is our equity and our equality. And it's being done with things called double standards and having a different standard. If I have a standard for you, and I have a standard for you, and I have a standard for you, or we have a standard for one race but not a standard for the other race, what have we broken apart? This isn't really difficult. Come on. What have we really done? We're breaking down equality and we're saying they're inequality. Some people are specialer than others. Do not buy that lie. Oh, don't buy the lie. Okay. The poetry of the truth is always beautiful. Now, I'm just going to wrap this up a little bit with something that I heard from Tucker Carlson the other night, because his thinking was so clear that I was amazed. But we'll be loading up, and we'll be loading up over the next few days, some links to a bunch of things that you can listen to that will help you think about what's really going on and why it's going on, so that you can get some clarity about what looks like absolute chaos, because it's not really. It only looks like chaos to you and me because we're not insane. Okay? But they want us to think everything has gone insane, but it's really a plan. a plan that will get us to capitulate our trust and to go into people who said, I'm going to take the whole country apart and give you a new world order, one in which you aren't going to have any more freedoms. I'm going to control your ass every which way but sideways. I'm going to indoctrinate your children. We're going to do this and that. They're even telling us what they're going to do. I can't imagine anybody listening to that and going, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that sounds like a better world. That's why we're talking here today. I just want to give you another context. Dave, would you put it on?
Yes.
We need some tech assistance.
This is the most divisive possible way to run a country. If you wanted to make certain that your children would hate each other, you would hold them to different standards, and they certainly would. There is a reason that racial tension is rising in this country. It's by design. But race is not the only dividing line. The coronavirus lockdowns have nothing to do with race, with white or black, thank God. They're probably the only thing in America right now that doesn't. Quarantines are instead scientific. They're purely a matter of public health. That's what they told us, and we believe them. We sat passively as they destroyed our country's economy, as they indicted Americans for trying to make a living. And then the Black Lives Matter riots started, and we learned that it was all fake. The very same officials who threatened us with arrest for going outside urged their own voters to flood the streets. And they did, and no one was punished. How could this happen? It was such a flagrant double standard, not even hidden, right in your face. They didn't try to explain it. They didn't bother to justify it. Why? Anyone familiar with totalitarian regimes can tell you exactly why and what's going on. This is ritual humiliation. Forcing people to accept mistreatment is a time-tested way to subdue them. Of course, we're not treating you fairly, they're telling us. You don't deserve fairness. You deserve what you get. That's the message. And after a while, the population accepts this. Some believe it. They blame themselves. That's the goal. But we should never accept it. The promise of absolute equality under the law is all we have. Laws are designed to protect the weak, not the strong. At the moment, the people leading this revolution against our system are strong. That's why they're trying to subvert our laws. If they succeed, there will be nothing to protect the rest of us in this country. We cannot let them do that. In the United States of America, all of us are equal under the law. Period. Say that as loud as you can.
Okay, so we kind of didn't get to the part of the thing that I also wanted you to hear and see because it kind of just blipped itself off. But he was drawing everything to a beautiful conclusion that was something that we still really need to see. We'll load up the link so you can watch the whole thing. We were watching it there from about 3/4 on in the presentation. So what's important here is that we realize we have to own the evolution. We have to drive this away from a revolution that is actually terroristic, domestic terrorism, ripping our country apart. And we have to insist and let our president know, come and take care of this. Stop the domestic terrorism. Because I know the president wants to, and when he comes forward, we haven't been calling it domestic terrorism. We've been calling it, a Black Lives Matter issue. That's the reason it's so out of control. Okay, that's the reason it's so confusing. No, call it what it is, and now the confusion disappears. It is domestic terrorism. How can you call it anything else? Look at the cities, they're being burned. If you were living in that city and they came in and sequestered your home and threw you out and killed your kids, would you be calling that, a peaceful revolution? A protest? No, you'd be saying, I've been robbed, murdered, I'm being terrorized, and you would be naming it correctly, okay? The problem is we got a press that's refusing to let us hear the truth. So we have to speak up and let our leadership know We're not under the spell and the hypnosis any longer. There are those of us, we've been calling ourselves a silent majority. Well, it's time to stop being silent. We cannot afford silence. We need to let our leadership know we understand and we do support you protecting us. We don't care what stupid labels the main press is putting on it. We don't care if they call it we're acting like a dictator. No, we know the difference. Terrorism is taking us into a dictatorship. Get that straight. In your heart, you know what I'm saying is true. You know what I'm saying is true. Might scare the bejeebies out of you. I get it. I get it. But we've got to overcome that paralysis. We have to overcome the paralysis while we can. And your children, oh my God, your beautiful, precious, our precious, precious children, they're all worth it. And we are all worthy of coming back to equality and being equally protected under the law. We need our laws to protect us. Trying to get rid of local police only makes it easier for domestic terrorism to come in and destroy your locality. Stop it. Only you can stop it with your voice. Speak up. Be free. Freedom of speech. We don't have freedom of press anymore. It just almost doesn't exist. But we do have free speech, and we have to use it. And we have to say no and start calling the spade a spade. Stop the domestic terrorism. Somebody wants to throw the word BLM at you, just step on and say, get that out of here. That's not what we're talking about. Never was talking about that. We're talking about the domestic terrorism. We're talking about the destruction of this country. Stop it. Just be clear. Don't let yourself get caught in the emotional thought. Will, standing here in the annex, I think you'd like to say something. Thank you. Love you.
Hi everybody, Will Gable. Got to kind of stand over here and put out the fire of the coals that Sharon has been burning into the floor here, which is a very interesting feeling. In a more practical sense, and not that Sharon's wasn't practical, I wanted to break this down into some categories here that you can use in your everyday life, some websites that I'll be putting up on, so that we can kind of get cohesive about what's really going on in the country every week and get more specific with these different issues. One of the main categories that I wanted to get into here was the COVID mask and social distancing, and also the vaccines. I don't know if any of you are familiar, if your parents are probably familiar, that your child's getting like 70-something vaccines before they're, 5. And they also, babies get a Hep B shot. What does a baby need that for? So these are some of the arenas here with the COVID into things, the mask things into things, and the social distancing into things. The masks actually cut down on your oxygen supply. We've got physicians, neurosurgeons that have come out and said they're not good for our cardiovascular, they create fatigue. So you really need to look at it, even if your government is telling you what to do. Your blood flow is being cut off. So one thing here that some of the companies are doing now is to quell this thing, along with hydroxychloroquine, is they're using UV lights in their businesses, and then you can use them in your homes. I've got a couple of websites that I'm going to put up on there to show you where you can buy your own UV lights that are safe. You can put them in your homes, and you can cut down on any of the possibilities of germs and potentially the virus, whatever that really looks like. So this is one arena. Now the hospitals have been using these giant UV machines for years. I really don't understand why they're not using them all the time anyway. And now the airlines want to get you have to wear a mask to get on the plane. They threw some people off the other day. Okay, so I mean, does social distancing really work in a plane? I mean, I've been there a few times. I don't think that's going to work. So anyway, you lower your oxygen, you weaken your immunity system, you disturb your cardio just by wearing a mask. Okay, so if this is done daily, year after year, this is ridiculous. So another arena here in this COVA mask distancing thing is, like in 2005, our wonderful Farsi said hydroxychloroquine was legit. So why has he changed here in the 15 years? Okay, this is not going to wash with the American people, because they're defending this whole thing of, now that the chloroquine has been validated by legitimate MDs, it's going to cut into possibly their vaccine profits and control over the population. So we need to stop this. They just don't want it. Okay? So another arena I got into here outside of the masks and the social distancing and everything was some prep work that you might be able to do, just because the economy is really on a pretty shaky leg. And I'm going to put a buyer's guide on here for emergency foods. We're going to try to do a little bit of this every week in each category. So I'll be putting this on the web, on our sites here that we've got on. Okay, a lot of the stuff that Sharon was talking about, we've lost, or we never really understood how to be a person who has critical thinking skills. How do we actually think about things in a centered, balanced way? So if you aren't really doing that on a daily basis, then you might just be an emotional basket case, and I'm just kind of making that term up. But if you don't know how to center yourself, how to really think about all this stuff, and how to provide yourself with correct information, because this is what our show is really about. We're trying to provide you with correct information, get you some real valid stuff that you can base your thinking on, so that you're not going off into chaos. So
peace in your heart and your mind.
right. So you can actually have some equanimity. So you can look that. I'll put some sites on there for that too, so you can kind of put those together. Critical thinking skills, equanimity, balance, centering. All this is very important in your daily life, because then you don't get carried away. You get on top of what's really going down as well as you can. You don't go off half-cocked. Okay, you've got some center. Another category was the economy. This comes from some people that we've consulted with. 70% of the economy is based on consumption. Okay, so if you're not out there spending your money like you were before, then there is no economy. Nothing's being produced.
That's your job.
So there you go. You're not even being able to get the foods you want. Okay, because they're not being produced. Okay, think about that. 70% of the economy is based on consumption. Okay, so if nobody's producing anything, you've seen the supply lines go down in different products, food, just different things you may need, car parts, whatever it may be. Okay, there's no production. It's just now revving up again very slowly. So
people need to be free to go to work and not wear a mask, killing themselves just to get a paycheck. They should not be allowed to be fired because they want to breathe and because they're healthy.
Another major.
I mean, my God, you're healthy.
Another major arena here is the commercial marketplace. If these guys that have these commercial businesses aren't getting rent from people because now they don't have a business anymore. Okay, that's that industry. I'm just giving you some of these statistics that are pretty valid, deep research. That's a $16 trillion market, commercial real estate. Okay, 16 trillion. If they aren't able to get their rent, get their shops on, they can't pay their bills, they can't pay the bank that they borrowed the money from to have the business building in the first place, or their mortgage, or whatever. So there it is. You know, it's just a big chain. We're all interrelated. It's all a unified field, just like Sharon's talking about. It's a unified field. So even on a practical level, which is where I'm taking a lot of this conversation. Okay? So, again, from some qualified people who are up on the economy, if gold hits 2,000 to 3,000, we're in inflation. Okay? Just look at it. It's almost hit 2,000 if it hasn't already. We're going to be in, we'll be in inflation. We're kind of in deflation. Now we're going to be in inflation, which means your buying power is way down. Isn't even anywhere near what it was 5 or 6 months ago. Okay, so just put that in there and contemplate that. I'm not trying to give you negative stuff. I'm trying to give you stuff that you can get some confidence in the sense of, okay, well, I got to do my homework. Will and Sharon and Tryson are going to be posting some other information, other websites, so that you could further put this together for yourself. That's what this show's about.
And this information that he's giving is important because it supports what's being ripped and taken away from you. And that is what these riots and the terrorism is causing. This is what it's really causing, is for you to not be able to pay your mortgage. It's coming because they're destroying everything else around you.
Well, at least right at the present moment, the Democrats are not coming to the table with the Republicans or the Senate to, you know, this whole thing of giving you money and everything, well, I guess it is in emergencies. We don't have them that often, so we've got to do something. But this is creating a giant debt. Federal Reserve, we could go into that maybe later on in the different program. So that can go really deep, and you're going to be very pissed off. So another designated area here is I got into was just control. Okay, there's control factors going on that you don't even have a clue about. Okay, and we're going to be posting some YouTube videos that explain to you what the globalist agenda truly is. Okay, this is the World Bank, this is the International Monetary Fund, BIS, Federal Reserve, and down to these, I guess you'd call them senators and representatives that are taking hits from the international lobbyists.
But the most important thing for them, Will, that they can relate to right now is that the control is happening here in the United States, in New York, in Seattle, in Washington, in
Right.
demanding that you wear a mask. They're already taking control and quality of life away. This is where we can say no. All this other stuff that you're also pointing to are the bigger parts of those institutions, and part of what we want to evolve and change.
Okay, so let's take it from there. It's kind of where my talk was going to go anyway, in a sense, is the mask thing, the social distancing thing. These are control mechanisms. They're going to destroy our ability to relate to each other. Okay, so
They already have.
what's happening, partly what's happening because of this is now they've got these contact tracers, and you've probably heard about them in your state. I know we've got some here in Oklahoma. I haven't met any. But these guys are going to control people in the sense that we've got some examples of people in California and Kentucky. They have locks on their legs. They can't leave their house. Okay? This is not America. And this is not This is what we're trying to undermine here with this show is get rid of this predisposition, their thinking pattern that wants to affect us. See, they don't have to do it. Farsi didn't have his mask on at the ball game that day. I mean, really? Who's he? Okay, so you really got to get a grip on how you're when you see stuff coming across the airwaves. You really need to get into your critical thinking skills. You really need to do your homework. Homework's the big deal. We'll try to dig in and do stuff here and give you some valid sources, but anyway, that's some arena there. Now, one thing here is Sharon gets into this a lot, the educational end of it. One thing that could change everything is if Trump really does get these school vouchers for parents. They can go anywhere they want to. Okay, they don't need public schools anymore, which I think probably scares the hell out of the government.
No, out of the NEA.
Well, they're the government association. The so anyway, if you can get the vouchers going, you can take your children wherever you want to. They're going to go. Okay, we're going to give you this. Yeah, we want this money coming in, so it really could help the whole thing and cut down on all this. Well, children shouldn't be going to say, well, why shouldn't they? Obviously, science has said, well, they're the ones that are not the most susceptible. Okay, so what's the big deal? Some of the teachers are getting freaked out on, that they have to be there with them when there's nothing to fear. Also, I'll be putting on just as a few more areas here for the people who are seeing stuff that's just totally not right. Michigan is starting to potentially chip their people in their companies, put a chip in there so that they can go to work. But what's the purpose of that? What do we need to do that for? Okay, because also going along this line of thought, the airlines, they want you to have a mask on, you can't get on the plane. Well, one of the websites, one of the YouTubes that I'm going to send you will explain how all this is a big control mechanism in a globalist sense, and that the multinational corporation and the banks and the elitists are actually trying to set this up. They already got it set up in their minds, but it hasn't been brought to fruition. So I'll be going into these four arenas over the next weeks or so. We'll be putting up the different .coms, all that, the UV lights and everything that you can buy for yourself. So this is just more in a down-to-earth, practical. This is what you can do for yourself. If you've got a lot of anxiety, you can start from the ground up, which is what this program is really about. Is we're coming from the ground up, but it's all coming out of the source, like we were talking about, spiritual source. It's not necessarily religious. It's just who you are, the truth. See, because after Sharon got through, I was having to stomp out the coals here of this fire. There was. It feels pretty good, actually. So
That's a good joke.
What we want to do is stop this dystopian oligarchy that's trying to push through and make it the New World Order, basically. So appreciate your time today. Sharon, you got anything else you need to say?
The thing I'd like to say loud and clear is I love you. I live, and have for quite a few years, with the intention and recognition that what makes my life at its most core level worth living, and it is to end the pain and suffering of humanity. Now, my specialty is to work with children, because it's just the way God made me. I mean, my facet in that diamond, that one little piece I am, the divine likes to work with me through education and working with children. that brightens my day. But working with parents and working with adults is very much a part of that continuum. But what's the bottom line? End pain and suffering, because that is not the eternal truth. Our freedom, all lives being equal, having the freedom to express ourselves, to enjoy our creativity, to go out and have picnics, to dance and to be with each other, and to have conversations around the table, and to agree to disagree, and walk away later and then say, I slept on what you said last night and still don't agree with 80% of it, but man, you did make a few points that have broadened my perspective. This is what the joy of living is all about. And when we end the pain and suffering of humanity by shifting and evolving our institutions to no longer feed pain, suffering, and inequality and greed, okay, and a specialized agenda and policy-driven life. No, we want to go back to principle-driven life, because it's eternal law. It's eternal truth. It'll never abandon us. And it goes to the very beautiful precept of the teacher who said to us, love your neighbor as yourself. And as we talked about here, the one thing that's not made clear there is, if you're not knowing that you're absolutely worthy and you are the farthest thing from a born sinner, then your love will no longer be corrupted or agitated or worried or lopsided. It will be the type of love that recognizes blossoming and growth, and we can then evolve. We do have to change our systems. We want to keep the same system, essentially. We want to keep that constitutional law. But we need to evolve the paradigms that run it. We need to give them an upgrade. We need to evolve them to a better, higher understanding of the things that we're talking here today about. We have to, because we're in the 21st century. I mean, it's not 2,000 years ago. But the eternal truth, our equity, has never been not in vogue. It will be in vogue and trendy forever. I mean, God is the most trendy energy in the universe. You want to look at it that way. And not the God that a lot of religions have put out there that's a judgmental God. The only thing that we have judgment about is when you break the laws that say, I have a right to hurt another human being because I think I'm better than them, or I think I have a right to rob from them or steal from them, or any other lopsided piece of crap that has basically an egotistical, non-loving center. It all comes back to the one thing we were talking about, though. If we have absolute equal worth, most of that just falls into the garbage can naturally. Just kind of falls to the floor. Okay? We don't have to work on it when we start to really get our center and our heart right. And what I want you to really take away from today is I'm gonna ask Will and Tryson to load up, because that's not my thing. a couple links that I'm gonna ask that will particularly be what helped me get clarity quickly was the clarity thinking of Tucker Carlson. Is that his name? He's really put a lot of this together without any bullshit. I mean, I could see the dots connected, and I saw that he wasn't playing out an agenda, and he just was building a linear recognition and way that we could comprehend what's really going on in a baseline sense. And I thought, wow, thank you. Now that's a facet of the divine, speaking from the type of gift and the way the divine wants to express through him, is a beautiful ability to articulate and investigate and report what's really going on without putting a bias on it, just giving it to you straight. I don't say to believe him. I'm saying listen and see what dots it connects for you. See how much sense it makes. Because for me, I'm not really politically minded per se, but I recognize that I cannot ignore the political environment, because if I did, in another few months, I might be living in a totalitarian state in which I will never see the ability to teach in another Montessori school for the rest of my life. That I'm going to see children being taught in the worst, crappiest educational system ever, through computer monitors and dissociated from other people and being indoctrinated in some kind of thought pattern that says some people are better than others. It's okay to be dissociated from another human being. It's okay to hurt them. It's okay to kill them. It's okay to burn their house down. After all, I mean, they're not as good as you. Okay? This double standard crap. Okay? I know you know what we're talking about here today. Ultimately, makes a lot of sense. What's amazing is that it's not being said out loud. I think it is. I just don't think it's getting the light of day. We need to give this type of thinking the light of day. We need to coalesce and gather around what we were losing so we can have an evolution. I am not interested in a revolution. I'm not interested in any more terrorism. I want all these terrorists to go to jail, and I want them to pay fines, and I don't want them to ever see the light of day again if all they can think of doing is burning people's homes down and attacking people and making slaves out of people. My God, they don't have that right. I don't want to give them that right. Do you want to give them that right? Your silence says, I don't want to, but I am. I don't want to, but I will. I will because I am. It's no longer, can we have the luxury of the silence of just accepting, let people do their thing. It's just not in that space anymore. The lines have been crossed. Grow up. All of us have to grow up. I had to grow up over this whole week and realize and come to grips with where we're really at. That we are really on the verge of a revolution if we don't bring this into an evolution. It was appalling, it was upsetting, and did it give me a few nights of not sleeping very well? You bet. But you want to know what? I'm sleeping better now because I see it. The dots are connecting. And I have to admit, thank you, Tucker Carlson. You really brightened my day by putting a lot of dots together faster than I could have put it together. And so in just a few hours of really thinking over everything else I observed and saw and watched, and I know from my heart of hearts, and I know about the Constitution of the United States. Love this thing, by the way. Love it, love it, love it. It is what has allowed us to live in a beautiful country, and it is what has given us a life that people around the world have migrated here and want. Right now, they seem to hate us and they want to take it away. And they want us to live in their substandard way of living. Why would we do that? Why would we give that up? Because we feel guilty? Guilty for what? Guilty for showing the world how to be free? That's nothing to be guilty about, folks. That's something to embrace as saying thank you.
Why does everybody want to come here?
Yeah, why do they want to come here if they hate it so much? Okay? I mean, there's all kinds of logical things we can ask. What's important is let's not get carried away with all those conversations as much as how do we get this back to an evolutionary path? How do we encourage current leadership to know that we want the terrorism to end now? When we see the federal government stepping in to stop the terrorists and putting them in jail, I don't care what the press says, how they spin that crap, we know it's not a dictatorial move. We know it is our president acting to protect us and protecting our Constitution, because we can't be great if we can't be a constitutionally free nation. We know that. We know that. You know that. We can do it, but we have to do it. That's what's hard. That is what's going to be very, very hard. Would you like to close the show for us, Trayson?
Yeah.
And thank you, Trayson. Thank you so much for allowing us to be able to even get on air. And we keep trying to get to 2 o'clock, and we're going to get there. But every day it's something different. Today it was microphones not wanting to work on the computer.
Well, thanks for being with us. This has been Edge of Truth Radio at 3 o'clock starting time. Look for us next week at 2.
Before you close off, Tryson, what was your biggest takeaway today?
Well, my biggest takeaway out of all of this that we talked about is uh, recognizing that we are on the precipice of revolution, and the the machine is already turned on, the wheels are already moving, and a lot of uh, the thinking patterns are already established in even within myself. I recognize the tendency to surrender power and give give up things that I should do for myself, or I should control for myself, and those are the types of thinking and habits that get us into being controlled.
You know, and I'd like to just applaud you and admire that admitting that we can see this stuff inside of ourselves is bravery, is
Yeah.
an act of boldness, Tryson. And to say that publicly, I just want to say I admire that.
Thanks.
That's a strength I admire. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, Sharon and Will have been instrumental uh, in helping me grow and progress and refine thinking as I'm still doing and still in progress. So I really value and appreciate their teaching and leadership, and I own and take on the responsibility for the the some of the technical difficulties,
We're growing.
and my role in helping to bring them live on air. And so I also want to thank them uh, for their time, Sharon and Will, in talking to myself and my friends and all of you viewers. And I look forward to much more and more in-depth discussions and more powerful action that we can take that will move the ball forward and hopefully stop the hurting and the pain and the bleeding of our country. So I appreciate you all being with us, and see you next time.